Welcome to my third tutoring session in A-level chemistry. In this video, I'll explain the physical and chemical properties of substances with suitable examples. Here's an overview of my third tutoring session. I'll begin my session with introduction to property. This will be followed by a brief talk about physical and chemical properties. And next, I'll give a detailed explanation about the importance of physical and chemical properties with suitable examples. And finally, I'll end the session with a summary. Now, what is a property? Now, properties are characteristics that help to describe and differentiate one substance from another. Now, let us consider metals, gold, silver, and copper. Now, one can describe and differentiate these three metals from one another based on their physical appearance as well as the physical change that they undergo on heating at high temperature. I am referring to the melting point here. So these three metals have their own characteristic melting points and they melt at a particular temperature. So one can describe and differentiate these three metals based on their physical appearance as well as the physical change that they tend to undergo on heating at high temperature when subjected to melting. Now, properties of substances can be classified as either physical or chemical. Now, what is a physical property? Now, physical properties are attributes of a substance that can be observed or measured without changing the substance chemical composition. That is, they relate to the substance's physical state and characteristics. Let us try and understand the physical property of the sodium metal. Now, sodium metal is a white silvery solid that melts at 98 degrees Celsius. Now, here we can observe the physical characteristics of sodium and also we can measure its physical change. So when sodium is heated at 98 degrees Celsius, it undergoes transformation from the solid state to the liquid state, and that is the physical change it undergoes when subjected to heating at a particular temperature. So the physical property of sodium can not only be observed, but also it can be measured. So let me take one more example. Copper sulfate crystals. Now, copper sulfate chemically is copper sulfate pentahydrate. It is a bright blue crystalline solid substance. It is soluble in water. It dissolves and it melts and decomposes at 560 degrees Celsius. Now, in both these cases, you find only a physical change that they are undergoing, but not a chemical change. So sodium remains as sodium even after it is getting transformed to the liquid state, and copper sulfate remains as copper sulfate even after it is dissolved in water. So there is only a physical change and you don't see any chemical change. What is a chemical property? Now, chemical properties describe how a substance interacts with other substances, undergoes chemical reactions, and thereby changes its chemical composition. Now, for example, iron undergoes a chemical change when it reacts with oxygen in the presence of water and thereby results in formation of a rust which is chemically known as ferric oxide. So here you can see there is a change in the chemical composition of iron. So iron changes to ferric oxide after a chemical reaction. So there is a change in the chemical composition. So after the reaction, you see that iron is bonding with oxygen atom. Now initially iron reacts with oxygen in the presence of water to form ferric hydroxide, and later ferric hydroxide is getting transformed to ferric oxide with the liberation of water molecule. Now ferric oxide is also called as iron oxide or simply rust. So let us investigate the physical property of sodium metal in detail. Now the physical characteristics of sodium metal can be observed, and its physical change when subjected to heating can also be measured. Now at room temperature and pressure, the sodium metal is a solid. Its density is approximately 0.97 grams per cubic centimeter. Now sodium is a soft silvery white metal that can be cut with a knife. And sodium metal, when subjected to heating, it melts, and you see there is a transformation of solid to the liquid state, and which on further heating at higher temperature, it boils. So you can not only observe the transformation of sodium metal from solid to liquid state during melting, but you can also measure its melting and boiling point. So one more important property of sodium metal is its conductivity. Now sodium is an excellent conductor of heat and electricity, making it valuable in various applications, including in the construction of electrical power cables. Another important property of sodium metal is that it is malleable and ductile. So what do you mean by malleable? So sodium metal can be hammered into sheets, and it can also be drawn into wires. So malleable is it can be transformed into sheets, and ductile it can be drawn into wires. Now about the chemical properties of sodium metal. Now sodium metal, it undergoes chemical change. That is, it undergoes chemical reactions and changes its chemical composition. So here are the series of reactions that sodium metal tends to undergo. Now sodium metal reacts with oxygen, resulting in formation of sodium oxide. And you can see a change in the color. So silvery white sodium metal, it takes a coating of sodium oxide on exposure to oxygen, and it is because of the formation of sodium oxide you observe this grayish black layer or coating on its surface. Now sodium metal reacts violently with water and produces flammable hydrogen gas. Now it is highly exothermic reaction, and when you treat sodium with water, it liberates hydrogen gas and liberating X amount of heat, and the liberated heat can tend to produce flames, and that adds to its property, that is flammability. And talking about its oxidation state, now sodium typically forms a sodium ion by losing one electron with change in oxidation state from 0 to +1. Example being formation of ionic compounds like sodium chloride on reacting with non-metals like chlorine. So sodium undergoes oxidation and loses one electron, while chlorine gains one electron and undergoes reduction. Now in all these four examples, you can see that sodium, it undergoes chemical reactions, and after the chemical reaction, you can see there is change in the chemical composition. So after the reaction is complete, sodium no longer remains as sodium. There is change in the chemical composition. Now in summary, sodium and iron exhibit distinct physical and chemical properties. Sodium is a highly reactive, soft metal with excellent conductivity, while iron is a dense gray metal known for its magnetic properties and its propensity to rust when exposed to oxygen and moisture. Both sodium and iron elements have important industrial and practical applications. In summary, physical properties related to the observable characteristics of a substance, such as its appearance and behavior under certain conditions, without altering its chemical identity. While chemical properties describe how a substance interacts with other substances and undergoes chemical changes, potentially leading to a different chemical composition. So therefore, understanding both types of properties is crucial for comprehending the behavior and utility of elements and compounds in various contexts, including in chemistry and everyday life. Thank you so much for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next interesting tutoring session.